press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Hello dear students. So back to the biology class. We were studying animal kingdom. Well, a very quick revision of what we had studied. So firstly, we had listed all the phylum which we are supposed to study under animal kingdom. We had listed 12 phylum. Among them we are going to study only 11 phyla because one has been already studied in kingdom Protista. So we will start our studies from kingdom Porifera. Kingdom Porifera. So, phylum Porifera. Kingdom animal and phylum Porifera. We will start our studies from the phylum Porifera, the characteristics of the phylum Porifera. So before going to that, what we studied in the earlier classes, the basis of classification. So in the basis of classification, we studied on what basis the animal kingdom has been divided into different phyla. So we studied the various types of digestive system which are exhibited in various animals, like the complete and incomplete. We studied about the cellular organization. Some organisms are unicellular and some are multicellular organisms. Then we studied circulatory system, wherein we studied the open and closed type of circulatory system. Then we studied segmentation, metamerism. On presence and absence of notochord, organisms are classified into non-chordates and chordates. We studied about the symmetry, animals exhibiting radial symmetry, bilateral symmetry, and animals exhibiting none of these symmetry, called as asymmetry. Then we also studied the different types of body cavity like coelomata, acoelomata and pseudocoelomata. So all these now you are quite aware of. So now we are directly going to study the characteristics of each and every phylum. So we will start our studies with the first phylum, that is Porifera. Protozoa you have already studied in kingdom Protista. So directly we are going to phylum Porifera. Phylum Porifera. So the word Porifera has been derived from Greek, which means porous, that is containing pores, and ferre, which means bear, to bear, or you can call to bear, to have something, to have pores on the body. Porifera, to bear pores on the body or to have pores on the body, hence the name Porifera. They are also commonly called as sponges. They are also called as sponges. So Porifera or sponges, and these sponges, the study of these sponges is also called as parazoology. The study of sponges or poriferans is called as parazoology. So now listing out the characteristics of poriferans. So let us list the characteristics. The first one, based on their habitat, where do they dwell? They are exclusively aquatic. They are exclusively aquatic. Most of the forms are marine. Most of them are marine, and few are freshwater forms. Freshwater forms. One of the best example of the freshwater form is Spongilla. The best example for a freshwater form is the Spongilla. Most of them are aquatic, that is they live in water. They are marine, that is they live in sea water or in the ocean water. Only few of them are freshwater. Few forms of poriferans may exist in freshwater like ponds, etc. Right? So Spongilla is one of the example. Maybe it is the only freshwater which is freshwater poriferan found. And all the other forms are almost marine forms, that is they live in either in seas or oceans. So second, they are colonial. They are colonial and sessile or free swimming. Or you can also call it as sedentary or sessile or free swimming. So colonial, they live in colonies. Sessile, they have some body for attachment. They are attached to some of the bodies inside the sea or in the bottom of the sea, hence they are called as sedentary, or some few forms may be free swimming also. The live in colonies, colonial. Sessile, they may have some hold blast like structure to which they attach themselves to something in the bottom of the sea. Free swimming, they may also freely swim in the water, or they may be attached to any of the bodies in the sea like any sea plant or rocks or something like that. If they are attached, they are called as sedentary. So next is first one is about the habitat, then how they live, and the second is referring to their body structure. So the entire body is made up of tiny pores called as ostia. Entire body is made up of tiny pores which are called as ostia. So because of the presence of these tiny pores, these forms are referred as poriferans. They are called as poriferans. For example, if there is a structure like this, so the entire body of this cycon, this is one of the example called as cycon. So it is made up of tiny pores on its body which is called as ostia. It is called as ostia or the tiny pores they are called as. Now coming to they exhibit, they are asymmetrical. They are asymmetrical. Most of them, they are asymmetrical except leucosolenia, which is radially symmetrical or which will exhibit radial symmetry. Because they are of irregular in shape, they exhibit asymmetry. So they cannot be cut into two halves in any of the planes. Asymmetrical, which means in any of the plane they cannot be cut into two halves, identical halves, hence they are called as asymmetrical. So whereas leucosolenia can be cut into two equal halves when it is cut through the center, hence it is called as radial symmetry. So all the examples coming under porifera are almost asymmetrical, they are irregular in shape, and when they are cut in any plane they cannot be split into two equal halves, whereas only leucosolenia will exhibit radial symmetry. Next is, all these forms, they are diploblastic. What they are? They are diploblastic. So diploblastic we have already come across based on the germ layers. They have been divided into diploblastic and triploblastic. So the diploblastic, there are two layers in the body wall. One is there is an outer ectoderm, and there is an inner endoderm. And middle mesenchyme. In between the two there is a gelatinous fluid which is called as mesenchyme. Outer ectoderm is also called as pinacoderm. It is called as pinacoderm, and this pinacoderm is made up of two types of cells. One is called as pinacrocytes, and the other is called as porocytes. The outer ectoderm is made up of two kinds of cells. One is pinacrocytes and the other is porocytes. Next, coming to the inner endoderm. So the inner endoderm is also called as choanoderm, and this is made up of one type of cell which is called as choanocytes, or it is also called as collar cells. They are also referred as collar cells. They are flagellated collar cells. They are flagellated collar cells. Let me write this side. So the outer ectoderm consists of two types of cells, the pinacrocytes and porocytes. Pinacrocytes and porocytes. Whereas the inner endoderm called as choanoderm consists of choanocytes, or these choanocytes are also called as collar cells. They are flagellated cells which help in the movement of the water currents, So they are diploblastic. The outer ectoderm consists of two types of cells, the pinacrocytes and the porocytes. The inner endoderm is made up of a single kind of cells which are called as the collar cells or the choanocytes. And the middle mesoderm is absent here because it is diploblastic. It consists of a gelatinous fluid called as the mesoglia, and this mesoglia will contain cells called as amoebocytes. Amoebocytes because they are irregular shaped cells, hence they are called as amoebocytes. There are two types of amoebocytes. One is called as the scleroblast and the other is called as archaeocytes. You can take it as either mesoglia or mesenchyme. You can also call it as mesenchyme. So it is the gelatinous fluid present in between the outer ectoderm and inner endoderm. In between the two layers you can find this mesenchyme, which consists of two types of cells. Because they are irregular in shape, they are called as amoebocytes, and the two types of cells are called as scleroblasts and archaeocytes. Now, so these pinacrocytes, porocytes, then collar cells. So pinacrocytes, porocytes, they are present in the outermost layer. So pinacrocytes, they give mechanical support. Porocytes, they help in the entry of water. They help in the formation of the ostia, and they help in the incoming of water. So it is a inlet for water. So it creates a pore on the surface of the body. Then inner endoderm consists of collar cells. You can see the diagram is written over here. This is the figure showing the diploblastic body wall. So here the first lining, you can see this is the outer ectoderm, which consists of flat cells, and here there are oval shaped cells which are called as porocytes, which opens to the exterior with a pore called as the ostia. Ostia is plural, whereas ostium is singular. So this is the opening called as ostium. Singular is ostium, plural is ostia. So ostium, it is open to the exterior, and these are flat cells called as the pinacrocytes. And this pink colored fluid like structure is the mesenchyme. In the mesenchyme you can see the embedded amoebocytes and another skeletal structure which are called as spicules. I'll come to that later. So it also contains spicules. So the scleroblast are the one which will secrete these spicules, and archaeocytes, they are also called as totipotent cells. They are called as totipotent in nature. They are totipotent in nature, that is they can develop into any kind of cells in the poriferan body. So they help in the formation of ova and sperms. They help in the formation of male and female gametes. So that is about the functions of all these types of cells. So outer ectoderm consisting of pinacrocytes and porocytes, right? So mesenchyme consisting of amoeboid cells, scleroblast and archaeocytes plus the spicules, and the inner layer consists of the collar cells or the quinoderm, quinocytes or the collar cells, and the layer is called as quinoderm. So which enters into the interior of the body of the sponge. So this is the figure showing the diploblastic body wall. The figure showing the diploblastic body wall. Next, what is unique about it, about this porifera? What is unique about poriferans? So poriferans are unique in having a water transport system called as the canal system. They possess canal system. Let that be there. The diploblastic, let that be there. So next is the canal system, also called as the water transport system. See, you can see the figure of the canal system written over here, the canal system. So this is the pores on the body, which are called as ostia. Ostia opens exteriorly. So through this ostia, water will enter. You know, the sponges are present in the water. They live in water, aquatic they are, right? So water enters into the body of the sponge through these tiny pores on the body, which are called as ostia, and they enter into a bigger cavity which is present inside the body of the sponge, which is called as spongocele or it is also called as paragastral cavity. It is also called as paragastral cavity. So it acts like a stomach also, and therefore it is also called as a paragastral cavity. So a cavity like structure you can see, which is called as a spongocele. So there are minute pores on the surface of the body of the sponge, and those tiny pores are called as ostia. Water enters through the ostia and they enter this cavity called as the spongocele, and they move outside with the help of a opening at the top. So I had written the figure here. So if this is a sponge, so here you can see the opening with fringes. This is called as the osculum. This is called as the osculum. A better figure is written over there. You can see this is the body wall, and this is the ostia, and this is the spongocele cavity, and the exterior. The water is moving outside the sponge body through the osculum, which is present at the top. And this osculum is covered by oscular fringes. You call it as oscular fringes. The opening of the is called as the osculum, and it is covered by, it is surrounded by fringes, oscular fringes they are referred as. So the canal system comprises of ostia, spongocele and the osculum. The canal system comprises of the ostia, spongocele. The canal system consists of the ostia, which leads into a cavity called as the spongocele, which opens to the exterior with the help of a mouth-like structure called as the osculum. So that is the canal system or the water transport system. What is the speciality of this canal system? See, here it is serving many functions like nutrition, respiration. It is serving three important purposes like nutrition, respiration, and also excretion. It is serving three important purposes, or it is doing three important functions. One is nutrition, another is respiration, and the other is excretion. See, along with the water coming inside the spongocoel through the ostia, that is, along with the water coming inside the body of the sponge through the ostia, it is bringing certain nutrient materials also. See, the poriferans are holozoic in their nutrition. We'll come to that later. Holozoic in nutrition. That means they engulf whole organic matter, and they consume that as the food. Whole organic matter is consumed as the food. It is called as holozoic. So, tiny particles, organic particles which are present in the water, they enter into the body of the sponge through this ostia, hence they serve nutrition. Second is respiration. Along with the water currents, the oxygen also enters through into the body of the sponge. Along with the water, the oxygen is also carried inside the body of the sponge. It is also serving excretion. It is serving excretion, that is, all the waste which are produced inside the body of the sponge is thrown into the spongocoel. From the spongocoel, the water current itself will carry the waste to the outside with the osculum, the opening which is to the exterior. So, it is serving three important purposes. One is nutrition, the second is respiration, and the other is excretion. So, nutrient particles are entering through the ostia into the spongocoel or into the cavity of the sponge body, and secondly, the respiration, that is, oxygen is also coming along with the water. Oxygen is absorbed by the cells, and the excretion, all the waste that are dumped into the spongocoel are carried by the water currents to the outside with the help of the osculum. Through the osculum, the waste substances are thrown out of the body along with the water current. So, canal system is serving three important purposes. One is the nutrition, the respiration, and the excretion. Next is coming to digestion. Digestion. So, the digestion is intracellular. So, within the cells. So, digestion takes place inside the cells. There is no any system, because you know it comes under Protozoa. Animal kingdom has been classified based on the cellular organization, and these are multicellular organisms with cellular grade of organization where group of cells are present, but they are not derived into tissues. No tissues are present, no organs are present, no organ systems are present. So, group of cells itself will perform particular functions. So, digestion is intracellular, and there is incomplete digestive system. The digestive system is incomplete because there is only one opening, that is the osculum. There is nothing like mouth or anus because there is no tissue, no organ system, right? Digestion is intracellular. So, we have studied digestion is over, respiration is over, nutrition is over, excretion is over. No anything called as the nervous system is totally absent here. The nervous system is totally absent. In most of the non-chordates, we find an exoskeleton. I hope you understand what is an exoskeleton. Let me write. Yeah, exoskeleton. exoskeleton. They have a exoskeleton which consists of spicules, or they are also referred as spongin fibers. Spongin fibers. Spicules or spongin fibers they are called as. These spicules are either made up of calcium carbonate or silica or a substance called as spongin. So the spongin fibers are secreted by the spongioblast, and the spicules are secreted by the scleroblast. The spicules are secreted by the scleroblast, and the spongin fibers are secreted from another type of cells called as the spongioblast. So they form the exoskeleton. So when you touch the body of a cycon, you can feel that there are tiny thorns which will prick the organism, and they act something like offense and defense. So to some extent. So this exoskeleton there consists of spicules made up of calcium carbonate and silica, and the spongin fibers, which is made up of a substance called as spongin. Next is coming to the, let me rub this figure. Reproduction. So in poriferans, reproduction is of two types. One is asexual reproduction and the other is sexual reproduction. A stands for absence of sex cells. Sex cells means the gametes. The gametes are referred as the sex cells which are not involved in asexual reproduction, hence called as asexual reproduction, no role of sex cells or no role of gametes. Here, sexual reproduction, the sex cells play a very important role, that is the gametes. There is formation of gametes, that is the male gamete and the female gametes are formed. The male gametes called as the ova and the male gametes called as the sperms and the female gametes called as the ova are produced during the sexual reproduction. Here, no formation of any gametes, no gametogenesis. Here, gametogenesis is present. Female gamete and male gametes are produced. So, asexual reproduction takes place by a process called as budding and fragmentation. So, two important process of asexual reproduction. So, budding is, so if this is cycon body, so one small projection starts with the help of endogenous buds which are present here. So the archaeocytes, they produce these buds, which the process is called as budding. Fragmentation, so if the organism is fragmented, if at all because of water currents or any other reason, if the body of the organism is cut into pieces, each fragment will produce a new individual and hence called as fragmentation. So asexual reproduction takes place by budding and fragmentation. Sexual reproduction, so here in poriferans we usually don't find any male and female organisms. There are poriferans, there is a cycon, there is Leucosolenia, there is Euplectella, there is a sea anemone. It is not a male, not a female. We call such animals. They have both female characteristics and also male characteristics in them. So they are referred as hermaphrodites. They can produce both male and female gametes. Therefore, they are referred as hermaphrodites. They are referred as hermaphrodites. So a single individual or a single poriferan individual can produce both male and female gametes. In higher organisms, that is not the case. You find a separate male organism and a separate female organism, male individual and a female individual. So there is nothing like a male cycon and female cycon. There is nothing like male cycon and female cycon. There is a single cycon which itself can produce both male and female gametes, and such organisms we refer them as hermaphrodites. So they are hermaphrodites, they are capable of producing both male and female gametes, and the reproduction, fertilization takes place by the fusion of these male and female gametes, that is ova and sperms fuse inside the body of the cycon or inside the body of the poriferan or inside the body of the sponge. Hence it is internal fertilization. We call it as internal fertilization. We call it as internal fertilization. So you can find internal fertilization, asexual reproduction by budding and fragmentation. So sexual reproduction, usually the organisms are hermaphrodites. They are capable of producing both male and female gametes, and fusion of gametes takes place inside the body, hence you call it as internal fertilization. And there is indirect development, and there is indirect development. So we will sexual reproduction with the help of hermaphrodites, that is the individuals are capable of producing both male and female gametes, and there is internal fertilization. The fusion of the gametes takes place inside the body of the poriferan, hence it is internal fertilization, and there is indirect development. So in the other class, earlier video, I have explained what is indirect development, direct development and indirect development. So embryonic development, in the embryonic development, there is direct development and indirect development. The egg hatches out into an adult which is similar to that of hatches out an young one which is similar to that of an adult. You call it as direct development. But here the egg hatches out a young one which is dissimilar to that of the adult, and that young one will undergo metamorphosis, and finally after undergoing larval stages it will become an adult. And the larva is completely morphologically different than the adult. So adult looks differently and the larva looks very differently. They both do not resemble each other. There is no any resemblance between the larva and the adult. They have distinct morphological features. So that is called as indirect development. And the larva, there are two different types of larvae seen in poriferans. One larval stage, one larva called as parenchyma, which is the larva of Leucosolenia. Leucosolenia is a poriferan, is the name of one organism coming under poriferan. So another is Amphiblastula. So it is the larva of cycon, also called as Scypha. So parenchyma and Amphiblastula are the two larval stages seen in poriferans. So in both the larval stages are not present in a single species. Some species may exhibit the larval stage called as the parenchyma, and some species may exhibit the larval stage called as the Amphiblastula. Once again I shall repeat. Indirect development is seen in case of poriferans. So in indirect development what happens is, from the egg, an young one comes which is morphologically very different from that of the adult organism. So it will undergo lot of changes, that is it undergoes metamorphosis and developmental stages. After undergoing many developmental stages or metamorphosis, it will produce a young one which is similar to that of the adult. So these stages, developmental stages, are called by various names, and one of the stages called as the larva, and this larva is morphologically completely different to the adult organism. It doesn't have any resemblance with the adult organism. So morphologically, larva looks like a different animal and adult looks like a different animal. But this larva will finally develop into an adult. So this is called as indirect development. So the larval stages, one is called as parenchyma and the other is amphiblastula. Some poriferans exhibit parenchyma stage and some poriferans exhibit amphiblastula stage. Example I have given, Leucosolenia will exhibit parenchyma stage and Cycon will exhibit amphiblastula larval stage. So this is indirect development. So there is another thing where is regeneration. The capacity of regeneration is very high in case of poriferans. Regeneration. Let me rub this structure. Regeneration. Yeah, regeneration. The capacity of regeneration is very high. The meaning of regeneration is, while telling about fragmentation, asexual reproduction fragmentation, I told you that if the organism is split into smaller fragments, each fragment can develop the lost parts, the parts which it has lost, which it doesn't have. So if a organism is split into pieces in case of poriferan, each piece can develop into each fragment or a piece can develop into a new organism by developing the parts which it has lost. So that mechanism or that phenomenon is called as regeneration, and the capacity is very high. That is, it can produce the lost parts. So regeneration. And finally, another stage called as a unique character of poriferans called as Gemules. What are these Gemules? Gemules are some stony like structures which consist of endogenous buds. So what happens is, whenever there are unfavorable conditions for the poriferans to develop, that is in the process of reproduction. So for the development of the young ones, if there are certain unfavorable conditions like water current or water salinity or maybe any other reason, the eggs or the buds are packed up in a stony coat which is called as Gemules. And whenever the favorable condition comes, these endogenous buds come out of the Gemules and they develop into young ones. So this is one of the unique characters of Porifera which is called as Gemules. So these are the characteristics of the phylum Porifera. Phylum Porifera. So once again, let me revise. Phylum Porifera derived from Greek word, that is porous, which means pores. Ferre means to bear. So organisms bearing huge number of pores on their body, they are called as poriferans. They are also commonly called as sponges. And the study of sponges is called as parazoology. The study of sponges is called as parazoology. Almost all poriferans are aquatic and many of them are marine in their habitat. Only a few organisms or few species can be found in fresh water, and well-known species is Spongilla, which lives in fresh water, and all other forms they live in marine water. They are colonial, that is, these organisms they live in colonies. They are sessile, they have a stalk-like structure, or they are free swimming sometimes. Some forms are free swimming, some are sedentary, that is, they are held at the bottom with the help of some structure like a plant or a rock. So hence they are immobile, they can't move, they stay in where they are, sedentary. Ostia. The body consists of tiny pores on it which are called as ostia. They do not exhibit any symmetry, hence they are called as asymmetrical. So when the organism is cut in any plane, it doesn't give two equal halves, hence they are called as asymmetrical. But one example like Leucosolenia is radially symmetrical. Leucosolenia is radially symmetrical, that when it is cut through the center, it gives two equal halves. And these organisms are diploblastic. The germ layer or the body wall consists of two layers, the outer ectoderm and inner endoderm. The two are separated by a gelatinous fluid-like structure called as the mesenchyme or the mesoglia. The outer ectoderm consists of pinacrocytes and porocytes, and the mesenchyma in it contains two types of amebiocytes. One is called as the scleroblast and the other is archaeocytes. Then the innermost layer, the endoderm, consists of it is also called as quinoderm, and it is made up of collar cells or quinocytes. They are also called as quinocytes. Quinoderm, pinacoderm. Pinacoderm consists of pinacrocytes. Quinoderm consists of quinocytes or collar cells. So that is diploblastic body wall. In between the two, there is mesenchyme, which consists of amebiocytes called scleroblast and archaeocytes. So they have a water transport system which is called as the canal system. So this canal system comprises of tiny pores on the surface of the body which are called as ostia, and this ostia, all these ostia present on the surface of the body will lead into a cavity inside which is called as the spongocele or the paragastral cavity, and which opens to the exterior. This spongocele opens to the outside with the help of a large opening called as the osculum, and the osculum is surrounded by oscular fringes which comprises of the canal system. And this canal system has three important functions. One is it helps in nutrition, the other is helps in respiration, and the other is it helps in excretion. So the nutrient particles are coming inside the body of the sponge along with the water current. Respiration, the gases, along with the water, the dissolved gases, that is the dissolved oxygen is also coming inside the body of the sponge. And excretion, so all the waste which are produced in the body are thrown into the spongocele. From the spongocele along with the water current, it is carried outside the body through the osculum. So it is serving three important functions: nutrition, respiration and excretion. Once again, Porifera is of cellular grade of organization, no tissues, no organs, no organ systems. Then digestion takes place inside the cells, hence called as intracellular digestion. Next is the reproduction. So in reproduction, both sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction takes place. Asexual reproduction takes place with the help of fragmentation or a process called as budding. The endogenous buds which come out of the emerge on the body surface protrudes outside, which is called as budding. Thereby a new young one comes out of the body of the adult, which is called as budding. And fragmentation, if any organism is cut into fragments, each fragment will develop into a new individual or a new organism, is called as fragmentation. Next is sexual reproduction. So usually poriferans we don't find male and female poriferans. We have only poriferans which are capable of producing both male and female gametes. Hence, they are called as hermaphrodites. They are referred as hermaphrodites. So, they produce both male and female gametes which fuse together inside the body. Hence, it is exhibiting internal fertilization. So, it also exhibits indirect development where the young ones undergo metamorphosis or enter into larval stage and then develop into an adult. So, the larval stage may be either parenchyma, the larva may be called as parenchyma, or the larva may be called as amphiblastula. The larva of Leucosolinia is called as parenchyma, the larva of Sycon is usually called as amphiblastula. They are not identical to that of the larvae are not identical to that of the adult. They are morphologically different with the adult organism. So, hence it is called as indirect development. So, next is poriferans exhibit a high capacity of regeneration. Thereby, if they are cut into smaller pieces, each piece can develop into a new organism by developing the lost parts. Therefore, high capacity of regenerate. So, generating the last parts, hence you call it as regeneration. Gemules are formed during unfavorable condition. So, during the process of reproduction, so the endogenous buds, if the conditions are not favorable for the development of an young one, so they are packed up in a stony like structure called as the gemule, and inside these buds are present. So, whenever the favorable conditions come, these endogenous buds develop into new individuals. So, that is unique about what is called as the poriferans. So, these are the characteristics of the phylum Porifera. Next, coming to the classification or the examples of poriferans. Examples of poriferans. So, poriferans are classified under three important classes. I hope you know the hierarchy of classification. The kingdom is classified into phyla. Phyla is further classified into classes. So, phylum Porifera is divided into three classes. Class Calcarea, class Hexactinellida, and class Demospongia. Demospongia. Under this we have certain examples. Calcarea, which means the spicules are made up of calcium carbonate or silica. So, the examples are Scypha, or it is called as Sycon. Another example is Leucosolinia. Hexactinellida, here the examples are Euplectella, called as Venus flower basket. So, it looks like a flower basket or a flower vase. So, hence the name Venus flower basket. Euplectella, the common name for Euplectella is Venus flower basket. And another is Hyloneema. It is also called as glass rope sponge. Glass rope sponge. So, it is glassy in appearance and it looks like a rope, because Hexactinellida, there are 6 rays of spicules, hence Hexactinellida it is called as. So, Euplectella and Hyloneema are the examples. The other name for Euplectella is Venus flower basket, and Hyloneema is also called as glass rope sponge. Demospongia, you have two examples. Here you have examples like Spongilla and Euspongia. So Spongilla, this I have already referred, it is one of the freshwater form and all are marine forms. Only Spongilla is freshwater form and all are marine forms. Euspongia, it is also called as bath sponge because it is used for cleaning purposes. The sponge we use for cleaning purposes is extracted from these sponges itself after undergoing a lot of processing. It takes that particular soft structure, that is Euspongia or the bath sponge. So that is about the classification of poriferans. So you can learn only the examples. For neat aspect, I have classified them and mentioned the classes also. So you can just remember the examples, that's also okay. So for your exam point of view, the question will be like, list out the characteristics of phylum Porifera, and the marks it demands will be 5 marks. It's a 5 marks question. So you may have to list out the characteristics. You may list out all the characteristics because you don't know the allotment of marks. The allotment of marks is left to the evaluator and the paper setter. So he may if he is not demanding so many characters, write 6 characters, write 8 characters, write 10 characters. If he is not demanding anything, means you please write all the characters. If the question demands like list 8 characters of poriferans, you can write only 8 characters. Okay, so with examples. So you need not remember the names of the class, only it is for neat. So only examples can be studied for board exams. That is the end of today's video. Thank you.